Imagine, a podcast series by Imagine Theatre.
Hello again. Can you believe we're halfway through the year? And this is episode 108 of Imagine Theatre's podcast series. And this time I've been joined by the drag performer, singer and actor Voix.
For more information, go to their website at www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.
In the last episode, we discussed the pantomime convention of cross-dressing, something you can trace back to the earliest forms of theatre, when I was joined by Janet Tennant, the author of the fabulous book It's a Drag, Cross-Dressing in Performance. If you missed it, you can still check it out along with all of the other previous episodes, and make sure you subscribe to the series so that you don't miss out in the future. So far, we've spoken to the stars of the pantomime stage, various creative team members, and many, many more. We've looked at specific panto titles, the stock characters, explored all of the elements that make a panto work, and we've celebrated panto successes at 3 consecutive UK Pantomime Awards ceremonies. But this time we're going to chat to the British drag performer and singer who you may have seen on television or even in a movie, from Britain's Got Talent and Queens of the Universe to Absolutely Fabulous the Movie. And as well, you may remember that she came runner-up in the 6th series of RuPaul's Drag Race UK. She's back at the Wycombe Swan this Christmas for Imagine. It is, of course, Voix. How are you?
Hello, my darling. Nice to speak to you.
So, can we start at the very beginning before Voix?
God, you're going to go that far back.
I want to ask you about your childhood, because I'm wondering whether or not you remember from Stockton-on-Tees, of course, whether you went to see panto maybe in Middlesbrough as a kid.
I did. Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, actually, Middlesbrough Little Theatre was where I did my first ever amateur dramatics. In fact, that might have been the first time I ever stepped on stage. Was in Middlesbrough Little Theatre in Singing in the Rain for some sort of local amateur dramatics group, which was amazing fun. But I remember going to see pantomime at it was Darlington Civic then, it's now the Hippodrome. And I remember seeing Natalie Imbruglia from Neighbours. And I was such a Neighbours fan back then as a kid. And I was so blown away that person from Neighbours was actually on stage in Darlington in front of me. So it was amazing. So we always, as a family, went out to pantomimes and travelled out as far as we could. So I loved it.
Can you remember what struck you about it? What sort of, inspired you in a way? Was it the story? Was it the characters? Was it the whole spectacle?
I think it's the last thing. I think it's the spectacle. For me, it's always been about the level of show, the glitter, the sparkles, the songs, the costumes. I don't have a clue remembering what the story was. That's probably similar to pantomimes I've been in myself. But but I mean, I think just the spectacle of it. I've always been someone who likes to put on a show and have all that production values to it. And that's what I love about Wycombe, with the digital set. And this year in Jack and the Beanstalk, there's even, the last 2 shows I've done here have been fully digital, but this is digital with some very impressive 3D sort of props and effects and puppets and all sorts. We're very excited.
Let's not forget, because there might be some people who don't know this, but you trained well before you ever came to prominence, on Drag Race or anything like that. You went to Brunel and then on to Erdang, and you trained as a performer.
I did. Oh, I did everything from a drama degree to a dance postgrad to a musical theatre diploma. I was desperate to get into musical theatre. Was the dream back then, to be kicking a line in back of Cats or in Chorus Line or something. It was always the dream to be in the West End, and I never really got that break. I toured a lot of shows, and pantomime was one of the first jobs that ever came along. And then, of course, fast track to my own shows coming in, and it's funny how it went full circle to then going back to the West End with my own show, as opposed to being in somebody else's show. So it was quite a nice way around of doing it, looking back.
Do you remember the first pantomime you ever did then?
Oh, I do. It was Aladdin, and I played a Chinese policeman. Probably couldn't do that nowadays. Different times. And it was amazing. It was at, Gordon Craig Theatre in Stevenage, and we opened early November and we finished, oh my gosh, like end of February or something. It went on forever. Thousands of shows with Lucy Benjamin from EastEnders and Mike McLean, the comedian. So I learned so much during that. It was amazing.
And you've picked up so many other skills along the way. I mean, there are many jobbing actors who find other things to do in between jobs, but you've done everything from local radio for the BBC to makeup artist, haven't you?
I have. Oh gosh, I was a makeup artist for people like Pamela Anderson and Nigella Lawson and Zoe Ball before she got the radio show. That's always the end of a makeup artist's career when they get a job in radio. But no, I've done so many varied things. And like lots of actors, you find elements of work to keep you going in between the dry spells. But I've been really lucky that as the years have gone on, the whole development of my own tours and the cruise ship work I do have meant that really I'm a full-time showgirl, really. I haven't been able to do any filler-inner jobs, which is wonderful. And I always try and make time for pantomime every Christmas. I love it. I must have done pantomime for, 22 years, something like that.
So just explain to us how La Voix came about then and how you developed that character.
Oh, do you know what? Looking back, I was working at Madame Jojo's in London, in Soho, cut my teeth back down there with all the stag nights and hen nights, and there was no smoke machines and hazers back then. It was all, the room was just full of Benson and Hedges and silk cut smoke. It was long before the smoking ban. You remember those days, and you came home from a night out and you close stink of cigarettes and all of that. And I cut my teeth very much back then on that scene. And I realised back then that there was no one really that did sort of cabaret, that did it high end, that did it with glamorous, that did it with, that wasn't swearing, that wasn't vulgar, that wasn't that, you know, it was always blue, and it was always a bit bad singing or bad parody. And I thought, I think I could do something a bit classier. And I was a massive admirer of people like Dame Edna Everage and Daniel LaRue and you know, those people that were very glamorous, very clean spoken, lots of innuendos, but never went, you know, with a foul language. And I thought, I'm going to try and see if I can create an act like that. And the rest was history, really. And it just ploughed on from there with my live band. I've always tried to keep the music live, the musicians, and just be that one step ahead the rest of the sort of underground cabaret scene, which was always a bit grungy. And I wanted to see if there's some glamour left in variety, really.
It's interesting. I had the pleasure of working with Danny LaRue a few times and talking to him years ago. He had the very same philosophy in terms of entertainment, and the stuff that he did in drag was as much a family show as the pantos he did. And that's important, I think, isn't it?
I think it's massively important. You don't alienate anyone. You keep yourself available to every demographic, whether they're 90 or they're 9. You know, every age group can come and see you, and it's wonderful. And it's also hard. It's hard to create the jokes that are like panto jokes that can have an innuendo for the adults, but then can be clean for the kids. And I think, there's a great reward when you find that, because your whole theatrical audience is laughing with you, and then you're not alienating a certain group. And you know, as a comedian, it's harder, but it's really rewarding when you nail it.
And when you started to sort of develop the character, because La Voix has certainly evolved, and you, as a performer, are bound to get more and more confident. Did the fact that you trained as a makeup artist help?
Oh, I think so. I think I wouldn't have the patience for someone else to be sat doing my face all the time and creating the looks. It's quite nice. I enjoy the creativity side of that. It's a great time for me in my dressing room to sit and think about the jokes, think about the show I'm going to do, you know, have that preparation time is really key, whether it's me doing my own show as La Voix, or whether it's me playing a character in a show. It gives me that time just to focus in. I'm always the first one in the theatre and the last one to leave, because it always takes me so long to get ready and unready. But I like that. I don't mind that. Theatre is where I feel the most at home, so I adore being in them. I love it when I've got a part in a show. It's just magical to work in these amazing theatres.
But you did all sorts of things, not just what people might describe as regular makeup for TV or stage. You did prosthetics and all sorts, didn't you?
I did. I worked on some great films and movies doing prosthetics and all sorts, and also in the fashion world, working with people like Vivienne Westwood, and travelling all over from New York and Paris, and it was great. And I think I did well at that, because I didn't really want to be doing it as my main line of work. I thought it was, you know, blagging my way through. And I think that's like, when you have a job like that and you think, well, it's not really what I want to be doing in the future, I'll just blag it, you sometimes become more successful than if you really are driven for something. Do you know what I mean? There's a slight bravado of youth I think I had back then. But I worked with some incredible people. I'll be petrified if I had to do their makeup now. I don't know how I ever did it then.
I mean, obviously, you learned so much, but you even, I don't know if it still exists, I'm sure it does, but you had at one time, if you haven't now, your own range of cosmetics and makeup, didn't you?
I do, yeah, I still very much have that now, and it's really popular with loads more products that have come out of our cosmetics, and it's still growing. We're bringing out more and more and more each year, and it's just fun. It's designed to be a bit quirky and a bit fun, but it's just for people that get bored of, you know, sort of older women, as it were. And when I say older, I don't mean older as in pensioners. I mean, you know, people in the 40s and 50s, they get a bit sidelined into thinking they don't like to wear vivid colours and bright makeup. And, you know, it's nice for women to have that, to be able to wear a red lip and bright colours, and they want that. You know, and I think they want a little element of La Voix. They want to be La Voix, and if I can give them that little hint of glamour with a bright lipstick or a glitter eyeshadow or something, then it's fun and it sells so well. Even during pantomime, you know, we sell all the products at the theatre and people arrive with the makeup on. It's all Christmassy and fabulous, and I love that because it links my past work with my current work, and you know, I'm so passionate about it.
Can you believe it's 11 years since Britain's Got Talent?
Stop it. Is it really? Oh my
I think
gosh.
it was 2014, wasn't it, I think?
And whatever happened to the winner there, you see, and I'm still going. Look at that.
I think it was, I mean, what you did was a breath of fresh air for me. I loved it. I think it was New York, New York, I think, wasn't it? And then
Yeah, that was my first one.
Diamonds
And
Are
then
a Girl's Best Friend in the
yeah.
semi-final. And with the London Gay Big Band, it was just amazing, I thought. I thought you should have won.
Oh, thank you. Do you know, to work with that level of band, no producer would ever spend that money on 22 musicians and that big spectacle like you used to see in the Judy Garland TV show days and the Shirley Bassey days. You would see that massive sort of band and orchestra on stage. And it was just so amazing that we got to do that. And I was lucky enough to work with the London Gay Big Band and have that level of instruments behind me. But I must tell you, on that last semi-final day, they put us in the smallest room to rehearse. And you imagine having 22 trumpets and saxophones. And literally, I was stood at the front trying to rehearse. I was deaf as a doorpost by the time we went on stage because the room was so small. We were given to rehearsing.
In the filmed bits that you did with the band, though, it was obviously clear that you all got on like a house on fire. There was a lot of banter, wasn't there?
Oh, there really was. And of course, a lot of people weren't professional musicians. I know they won't mind me saying that. They had regular jobs. There was lawyers and solicitors, and and they did it. They played the instruments on the side. So we had to rehearse on the weekends in the back room of clubs in Clapham. We used to rehearse in the Two Brewers, which is a bar in Clapham, every weekend. So of course the rehearsals took months because we wasn't, like we had a 2-week rehearsal period. People were fitting it in between day jobs. So we got along so well because there was so many weeks and weeks of prep and picking the songs and getting it right and getting the costuming together and doing all the filming for Britain's Got Talent. It was such a new place for all of us. None of us had ever done a TV show like that back then. So it was just a whirlwind journey. It was so much fun.
Two Brewers, legendary venue as well. I remember
and of course,
seeing...
11 years ago, Simon Cowell looked like Simon Cowell. So that's why it was a good time to do it.
Yeah, he might need you to do his makeup. Who knows? I mean, obviously that opened all sorts of doors for you. And I think being seen on peak Saturday night television was incredible as well. I mean, it's a long time since the likes of Danny LaRue were on the Royal Variety Show and Lily Savage and so on. I think it's really important to see drag performers on mainstream television, isn't it?
Oh, I think so. And I think especially since the development of Drag Race, there's been so many people that have come off the back of it, and dare I say it, that haven't been really true variety or true entertainment. They might be a bit more risky, a bit more edgy, or a bit more really designed for that sort of nightclub type act. And I think it was really hard when I just done mine now to break through, to let people know that we're not all the same, and not to, club us all into the same bracket, and we are all very much individual performers. And to have that variety back on, like you would have with Lily Savage doing Blankety Blank and Damon Reveridge doing, her chat shows, and Danny LaRue doing the concerts, it's important that people see that because it's just good family entertainment. And it's been around. I think people think it's a new thing since Drag Race, but it's been, I think your, older generations had it more on TV than what we've had now, just on the mainstream shows.
It's really interesting that in the last episode we spoke to the author Janet Tennant, who's written a fabulous book, which you might find interesting, called It's a Drag, Cross-Dressing in Performance. And she highlights the fact that this can be traced back to the very earliest forms of theatre. So this is nothing new, is it?
It's absolutely not new. And I think it does come in waves. Like anything, it gets a fashion period, it gets a little, resurgence, then it dies away again. And I've been doing it long enough. I've seen a couple of these resurgences come back along the way. Britain's Got Talent was a big surge for me, then it was a dip, and then other work came in. AbFab The Movie came in, and other things that just keep it popping back up. But it's always been there. And I think some people get scared that it's a new thing, but it's really not.
You mentioned RuPaul's Drag Race, and of course there were the others, Queen of the Universe, as well as Queens for the Night. But it was RuPaul's Drag Race that really did give your career a boost. It put you up there right front and centre again, didn't it?
It did. That could have gone either way. I thought I'm either going to get voted out week one or because I'm too established, or they're going to see me through to the end. And I had an absolute blast on that show. And I just went on there. I've done a lot of TV shows, and I think I had the confidence of the knowledge of how those shows run. So I just went in there. I was just myself, and I just enjoyed it. I didn't try to get involved in the dramas. I didn't try to get in my head with it all, and just have a great time. At the end of the day, you're walking up and down a runway in great costumes. I mean, it was just the most fun I've ever had.
And what an incredible period that was for you, with all that television exposure that RuPaul's Drag Race and the other shows gave you, because you also began recording at that time, didn't you? And that was incredible. I mean, I think it's countless albums and singles now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I've just released my first 2 original songs, which were written by Gareth Shortland and Tony Webb, who used to write for the likes of Steps and Claire Richards. And they approached me about some music, and you know what it's like in this industry. People say that to you all the time, and you go, "Oh yeah, that's fine," and you might think nothing will come of it, or they'll send you a sample track and it's dreadful. But they sent me these songs, and I thought, "Oh gosh, I think these are actually quite good." So I've recorded 4 now. 2 of them have been released. There's 2 more still to come, and I've loved it. I've loved the music videos, and I feel like a pop star. It's been incredible.
And of course, when it comes to panto, Christmas is a very special time of the year. It's a special time of the year for so many reasons, but it's obviously special to you as well, because I think the first album you ever recorded was a Christmas album, wasn't it?
It was, and it's still my most streamed album on Spotify. Is my Christmas song. So it's yeah, I love it. I love everything Christmas. I think, you know, for what I do, if I love the sparkles and the glitter, the whole country and world becomes glittery and sparkly with me, and it's a wonderful time to walk through the shops and see all the party wearing and the tinsel everywhere and the lights. I just honestly, it can't happen soon enough. I'm one of those people that gets excited when the Christmas shops open in July. I'm not one of those ones that rolls my eyes and like, oh, it's amazing. And doing pantomime makes it last even longer for me.
Now, one of the joys for me with panto is that it brings so many different people together. Performers, sports people, acrobats, people from all sides of the entertainment business and beyond all come together to put on a show that the family will absolutely love. And I mentioned cross-dressing can be traced back to the earliest forms of theatre. Traditionally in panto, of course, we've only ever had the dame and the principal boy. But it's great, I think, and refreshing to see now that more drag performers are being cast in other roles. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's amazing. It opens up the scope, and I think as a performer, you don't want to be playing the same role every single year or the same characters, you know. And it's lovely when they get to play the baddie or the fairy or just a completely different character in pantomime. I think it's lovely, and it shows the versatility of not only the producers and pantomimes, but also the open-mindedness of the audience. They'll more than happily accept a male playing a female role, a female playing a male role, you know, and that's just creates great fun. You know, if you can make someone like Dawn French, who's always known for being comedic, the baddie, then, you know, where does it end? And I think it's genius. And I've never played a baddie. I'd love to play a baddie.
I think you'd make a great baddie.
I'd love it.
I think you'd make a great any panto character because you have this incredible rapport with the audience. You're incredibly quick on stage, you know, with comebacks and ad-libs and one-liners and so on. You were made for panto, and you've done so many now. But what do you actually love about it?
I think I love exactly that. They give you a script, but I take that with a pinch of salt between you and me. I mean, you know, you, as long as you don't throw anyone else off, I just like going on there. And if something happens, you've got to roll with it. And the audience want that. They want to say, I was there the night that happened, or that broke, or that line went wrong. That's why you go to these shows. No one wants to go and see Jack and the Beanstalk played absolutely word for word accurately with no carnage and chaos. And I think that's what I like to bring to it. I like to pretend to the performers, you know, the actors in rehearsal, that I'm going to do exactly as the script. And then I think when the curtain goes up on the opening night, you think, oh, crikey, she's not going to do what's on the script or what we've rehearsed.
Do they guess when you're up to some mischief? Because you can have a little twinkle in your eye.
You can. I like to give them a few shows to get settled in. And then I think, right, now's the time. And sometimes I make little lists of jokes to change or names to throw in when they're least expecting it. And I love it because you see them, takes them a beat to realise what you've just said. And then it's just brilliant to watch them be thrown.
And I don't know how you find the time to do everything you do, because as well as all the other things that we've been talking about and doing your shows in this country, you're spending a lot of time, or you have been, on cruise ships all over the world. And there are more drag performers doing that. My good friend JP McHugh, Mary Mack, is on cruise ships regularly. And that takes your act to a totally different audience, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it's a great way to travel. You get to meet an international audience. You get to learn the different comedian, you know, the comedic material for American audience, to a European audience, to a mixed language audience. You really learn how to handle an international crowd on the cruise ships. And it's a great way to travel as well. You know, you go to bed in one country and wake up in another. And I love that.
And what about musical theatre? Because you said that was your first love. Is that something you've discounted now because you've got so many other things to concentrate on? Or are you still open-minded that if the right part came along in a musical theatre show that you'd do it?
Oh, it would be my absolute dream. As I said before, it was always my ambition to do that. And it'd be lovely if the whole thing came full circle and I ended up being cast in a musical. I've never done, apart from pantomime, I've never done a book musical, you know, a book show, a scripted play, or apart from pantomime. So I would love that experience of doing that. I really would. I mean, I might hate it. I might be bored stiff. I don't know if I'm allowed to ad-lib if I'm cast as Fantine in Les Miserables. I don't know what the rules are.
Maybe not, maybe not. And obviously there is the possibility of a certain amount of typecasting if you did a drag role in something like Priscilla or Jamie, for instance. Would you do that?
Absolutely, I would love that. I think they're great shows, and I think, if the timing is right and the role was there and offered to me, I'd jump at the chance. It'd be wonderful.
So you've done a number of pantos over the years in places like Aylesbury and others, but you're back at the Wycombe Swan again this year, and it's a venue you love, isn't it?
It is. I love it. I've grown a great affinity with the Wycombe audience, and I loved it from the first year I did it. They have that twinkle in their eye, that little. I think they knew what to expect when Lavoie joined the pantomime ranks here. So I think they came with open arms, ready to embrace my madness, and I've loved it, and I've just had the best time, and also got to work with some amazing people, Suzanne Shaw from Hearsay and Vernon Kay last year, and then of course Scott Mills. I'm working my way through the Radio 2 presenters slowly, so if I don't get a radio job there soon, there's no hope.
And why not? You've got some experience from your BBC Three Counties radio days. Of course, you're not doing that now, though, are you?
No, that stopped a few years ago. No, but I had a great time doing that. That got me through that whole COVID lockdown pandemic time, to every Sunday to go to the studios. It was a bit of sanity for me, really. It was wonderful. I adored that show. I adored doing the radio show, and of course, the things change and people move on. But I would love to have still been doing it. But no, they got rid of me, Paul O'Grady. We all went out.
One thing I would say, and we talk about the Wycombe Swan as a great venue, but that's down to the people who work there as well, isn't it? And there's a great backstage, front of house team. Everybody there really commits to panto, and that helps, doesn't it?
It really is an absolute family. You get to meet everyone, as you said, from the box office to the bar staff, right through to the people doing the lights and backstage. They're incredible. I even filmed my first music video for one of my singles here on one of the days off in pantomime, and the theatre manager was holding lights and and helping move around, for no cost and no charge. They just allow me to do it, and I love that they want to help you and make you have a great time while you're here, and you can't help have a great time on stage because there is that family, that's going on. It's a lovely team.
Now we can hear all the activity going on in the background because it's the summer, but you're actually at a photo shoot. How does that feel, doing a Christmas photo shoot?
The weirdest thing. You're all sat here in pantomime costumes, as you're all having to speak about like it's Christmas, and it's barely June. I don't know what time this is going out, but it'll probably be still summer or whatever. But it's a crazy time to be talking about pantomime and Christmas, and it's the summer. Because also the costumes are red hot. They're all covered in fur and heavy fabric, so you're dripping in sweat but trying to pretend it's cold.
And of course at this time of year it might be the first opportunity for you to meet some of the other cast members if they're at the photo shoot as well. Because
let's be honest, if they're difficult, then you've got the rest of the Christmas dreading this person who's difficult on the press day. So the hype, it's all a bit like egos. But I mean, I haven't met Scott Mills yet, so I hope he's all right.
He's a lovely man. You'll have great fun with him.
I think he's quite small, so I guess he's not playing the giant.
Well, maybe you could borrow your heels.
Maybe he's playing a magic bean. There we go. Very unusual role.
So, of all the pantos you've done, do you have a favourite panto title?
Oh, that's a good one. Do you know what? I love Beauty and the Beast. I think it's the most magical story. I've done that twice, once at Wycombe as well. I just think it's the most magical story. I just think it's beautiful, the whole thing about true love and the beast. And it's a great... I think it's also one of my favourite Disney films. Obviously, the pantomime is very different, but I just think the kids love that story. You're in a castle, and it's beasts and fights, and it's just wonderful.
And how much do you know about your show this year yet? Because obviously you probably haven't seen the script at all.
No, I'm looking at the flyer, and it is Jack and the Beanstalk, so I know that much. I've never done a Jack and the Beanstalk. Apparently I'm the owner of a farm, so I think I'm a farmer, which I think I might have to have contractual discussions after this podcast. I don't know if I'm meant to be booking out cows or what. I have no idea. Obviously, I know the storyline as a child, but I've never done a Jack and the Beanstalk. I have no idea what to expect. And that's my favourite panto to go into. I've done loads of Aladdins, a load of Cinderellas, and you sort of know what you're going into. With this, it'll be as much of a journey from day one of rehearsal to opening night for me. And I love that because it keeps it fresh, and you can find new jokes and new excitement as opposed to thinking, oh, I'll churn that joke out I did 10 years ago on that Cinderella ball scene.
The biggest thing about Jack and the Beanstalk, rather like, some of the others, is that it's just a great adventure. Off to Cloudland, fight the giant, all that sort of stuff. The reveal of the giant is something that the kids absolutely love. It's one of those magical effects, rather like, Cinderella's coach taking off and flying, that sort of thing. So it's just a great adventure, and kids love that, don't they?
Yeah, my gosh, you're absolutely right. You got me excited talking about it just then, and I think I get to go up the Beanstalk and all the stuff that doesn't happen in the original sort of fairy tale. So it's just going to be so magical. And I think that's what's so exciting. The fact that it's the digital set, and I think we've got a full 3D Beanstalk that happens, and a real big, massive, giant puppet that comes to life in the theatre. The kids are going to lose their mind, as will I.
We've spoken about the digital sets before and, how amazing they are, but I don't think we've ever spoken to a performer who's actually been on stage with them. What difference does it make to you?
Oh, it's petrifying because you need to know your lines. Because what I used to be able to do is walk off stage, look at the script in between a scene change, ready for the next scene to walk on. But the screen just changes and all of a sudden you're in the next place and you haven't had a chance to step off and look at your lines. So it's absolutely petrifying. I had to keep looking back at the screen to know where I was. So, no, but it's great. The creativity of sort of, even if it's a simple thing of, walking from the Cinderella's ball through the woods, you can walk on the spot and the screens move behind you like a movie screen, and the haunted woods appear, then the ballroom appears, and it's just magical because they create sets like you could never create physically, which I think is wonderful. And it's a lot to work with. I think you can feel the magic, the candles flicker on the candelabras, and the lights flicker, and there's rain outside the window. So it's really magical to perform against.
Well, listen, I know you'll have a fabulous time with Scott and the rest of the cast and crew and everybody at the Wycombe Swan this Christmas. But very quickly, before we finish, you mentioned you've got a couple of singles on the way. Are they out there yet? And if not, when are they coming out?
They are. Two of them are out. One called The Show Isn't Over. Hitchcock Blonde was released not so long ago at all. And then there's two more still coming out later this year. So by pantomime, there'll be two more out, which I'm super proud of. They're really good, cheesy, boppy dance songs. I'm hoping when it hits Christmas party time at Wycombe, we'll be blasting them out here at the opening night parties, no doubt.
They ought to really be playing the Christmas album, didn't they? You should mention that.
Should be, yes. I'm going to get that played front of house.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I know you're really, really busy today with the photo shoot, but Voix, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Lovely to chat to you, and have a great Christmas. You'd have just said that in June.
Yeah, I know, you're absolutely right. So let me be one of the first to wish you a very Merry Christmas. Have a great run at the Wycombe Swan as well in Jack and the Beanstalk. It runs from Friday the 12th of December through until Sunday the 4th of January. And as Voix was saying, it stars BBC Radio 2 breakfast presenter Scott Mills along with Mark Reed from the boy band A1. Britain's Got Talent finalist Matt Edwards with musical theatre actress Christina Harris, and Joe Osmond, the TikTok star, will be playing Poison Ivy, so don't miss it. In the meantime, thank you so much for supporting and listening to this podcast series. Don't forget to subscribe through your favourite podcast app, and make sure you spread the word to anybody you know who loves pantomime. Next time, we're going to be looking in more detail at the role of the Deputy Stage Manager. So make sure you join me, Martin Ballard, for episode 109.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of Just Imagine, the podcast series from Imagine Theatre. And you can find out more by going to www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.